All right, let's just get started, get going. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to EverestLabs' newest webinar, Customizing AI and Robotics for your MRF. Before we get started, I wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. First, this webinar is being recorded. Everyone will receive an email from me with a copy of the webinar recording and the slides in the upcoming few days. And then we will also be doing a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions that pop up during the webinar, feel free to place them into the Q&A chat at the bottom of your screen. All right, so who will you be hearing from today? My name is McKenna Phillips. I'm a marketing manager here at EverestLabs. I spend my time spreading the word about our AI and robotics sortation system for recycling facilities. And I have been here at EverestLabs for about 3 years now, actually, this month. So I will be acting similar to a moderator during this webinar, and you will hear from me at the beginning and at the end. But the main person you will be listening to today is Katie Nellis, who I will have introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm dialing in today from New York City. I have a degree in electrical and computer engineering, but I've been working in tech across multiple industries for the past decade. And I started at Everest Labs a couple of years ago because I was super inspired by what we're doing with AI and data and robotics and how it's changing the recycling industry. So I'm excited to take you through this topic today.
Sweet. Thanks, Katie. So, real quick, I want to just go through the agenda. During this webinar, you will hear the process behind how we create a custom plan for our AI and robotics solutions for every MRF we visit. And we do this by conducting site surveys. So we'll start by running through what a site survey is, the kinds of information we collect during a site survey, and how we use it to create a custom solution. And then we will end with our proposal process and next steps. And with that, I will pass it back over to Katie, and she'll get into all of it.
All right, so what is a site survey and why do we conduct them? Well, in this day and age, a lot of business can be done remotely, and that's fantastic. But in the recycling industry, we're dealing with physical materials, major equipment, and complex processes. So while we love to introduce ourselves over Zoom and get to know your needs, the real step towards solving your problems begins with a site survey, which is a free on-site visit to your facility. So at no cost to you, we will come on site and spend roughly 2 hours with you, your ops manager or supervisor, and really get down to the intimate details of your plant. This requires no downtime because we actually want to see the plant running so we can see how the material flows, understand what the typical burden looks like, see how you're staffed and what you're sorting. When we get there, I like to start with a quick sit down session to chat about the logistics of the visit and answer any questions you may have about our EverestLabs technology and services. We all know MRFs are loud, so this allows us to better understand your processes before we get out onto the floor. And we typically cover basic operational questions like your processing time and your throughput, what materials you accept and how you sort them, what existing equipment you have, and any planned upgrades or retrofits on your calendar, and any other general pain points like staffing challenges or recyclables being lost. Then comes my favorite part, actually touring the facility. Starting from the tip floor, we'll go step by step through your system to follow exactly where your material flows and is sorted all the way to the residue. I always joke with my clients that they're going to get their steps in that day when I'm on site because I really truly want to see it all. As we go through the MRF, we will pause at certain areas where AI, data, or robotics could be of use and spend some time gathering additional information and measurements at those points. At the end of the tour, we'll come out of it with a great idea of potential opportunities across the plant. And then we'll take all of that information that we've gathered to use internally and create a custom solution plan for you and your team. So let's take a look at an example of what information we capture during these site surveys and how we use it. Next slide. The first asset we create is what I like to call a MRF map. This depicts how the material flows through a plant, where it is sorted, which equipment is used, and where the material should end up. So when we're on site walking the floor, I'm literally drawing out this map so that we can come back to it during our solutioning phase. But why do we do this? Well, as a solutions engineer with Everest, my primary role is to conduct these site surveys. And just in the past 2 years, I've been to nearly 40 different facilities. So I know firsthand that no two MRFs are the same, even if they're owned by the same company or built by the same integrator. So here is an example MRF flow for a single stream residential MRF. They're processing mixed paper, OCC, glass, ferrous metals, PET, HDPE, and UBC. It's been a bit simplified and cleaned up so that it's more readable, but you can see starting at the left-hand side, the process starts at the infeed, and then at each major equipment in the flow, you can follow where particular material is being sorted out of the stream, where it should be ending up, and where are other notable parts of the process, like sorting areas or QC lines. This map is then leveraged to identify and organize all the different areas for AI and robotic automation across the entire facility. Next slide. Okay, besides that beautiful MRF map, what else are we capturing when we're out there doing the survey? Like I mentioned, when we get to a certain point in the MRF where we know there is some way that AI or robotics could add value, we stop and we gather more detailed measurements about the line and the area. In this example, we focused on the MRF's last chance line where they wanted to prioritize robotics to augment their manual staffing there. So some of the things we gather, photos of the conveyor, of the drop points like chutes and bins, of the walkways and of the motor. We take videos of the area of the material running on the line so that we can see what the typical burden looks like. Even videos of the actual sorting happening, what gets thrown where, is helpful for us to capture so we know what is to be expected when in production. We also take a bunch of measurements, including belt width, height, frame width. If it's an inclined belt, what's the slope, things like that. We also make sure we're discussing what the pick strategy is here, what material is expected on the belt, what's considered contamination, what are they prioritizing to recover, and where are they throwing it when they take it off a belt. All of these are taken with respect to the people on the floor, the sorters, the supervisors, the maintenance folks. We stay out of their way so as not to disrupt normal processing and do our best to keep people's faces out of our content, even though, of course, it's all for internal use only. Next slide. Another great asset that we get when stopping at these specific lines are SLAMs. SLAM stands for simultaneous localization and mapping, which is really just a techie way of saying that we capture a 3D mapping of an area using a cool tool on our iPads. In these images here, you can see a SLAM of that MRF's last chance line. We make sure to scan the entirety of the line as well as the surrounding area and any important egress points like staircases and walkways. This is a really important step in our process because being on the floor of a MRF can be unpredictable and you never know what you may miss with a photo or a video. These SLAMs, along with the rest of the content and the measurements we get, allow the rest of our Everest team, our robotics engineers, our deployment engineers, they all are able to get a full understanding of a line without having to actually have been there on site themselves. Alrighty, I've covered all of the things we collect during a site survey. Now I'm going to show you how we use all of that to create a custom solution plan for your MRF. Next slide. First thing we do is to take that MRF map and identify all of the areas for potential AI, data, and robotics across the site. In this example MRF, there are 9 total spots which are listed with the matching solution on the table on the right-hand side. So at number one on the OCC/QC line, we could put an EverestLabs robot to quantify the purity of that OCC stream, and the robot there could be removing contamination. The data from that line also allows you to understand, okay, how well is that OCC screen performing? How much contamination is getting through? Things like that. On the glass line, a standalone vision system, so I'm looking at number two here, putting a standalone vision system there would allow the MRF to identify and quantify any recyclable materials that are mistakenly getting through that glass breaker. This was a suggested location because from our on-site conversations, we were able to learn that they often see a lot of crushed aluminum cans and PET bottles going out in their glass stream. So putting a vision system there allows them to actually quantify and understand the value of the material that's being lost there. Looking at number three, putting a camera after their screens but before their magnet would determine the composition of their 2D versus 3D material and allow them to gauge the performance of those upstream screens. Locations 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 here on this map are all candidates for EverestLab robots, and those would be to perform sorting, which would automate their quality control and alleviate manual staffing issues that this MRF has because they're in a remote area where finding reliable sorters is tough. The data from the cameras at these locations also gleans a lot of insights into the purity of the container streams and the performance of the different equipment at this part of the plant, including their opticals, their magnet, and their eddy current. Lastly, number 9 here shows the option for another standalone vision system on their residue line that captures all the materials going out to landfill. So what's trash? What are recyclables that could have been recovered? What's the value of those commodities being lost? And also what the MRF is losing by sending that to landfill and incurring additional costs to haul and ship that residue. Now, of course, there's no expectation for this MRF to immediately go and put 9 solutions across their plan at once, but we highlight the total opportunity here so that they're aware of all of the possibilities, and then we work together on identifying which is the best place to start based on their needs. So as we already know for this example, the last chance line, number 7 here, is where this MRF wants to start. Next slide. Next is the really fun part. So using all of the measurements, photos, videos, and scans of a line, we're able to create a 3D CAD model of the specific areas in your MRF. Then we can drop in our exact footprint cameras and robots and physically place them and plan out exactly how we would potentially install our equipment. This allows us to really depict and envision our plan and show it to our clients so that they can see what we're thinking. We can get their feedback on what they think will fit, what they think will work in production, all good things. So through conversations with the client, we iterate and improve these designs, as you can see in this example here. On the left-hand side, we have our very first design where we put 2 robots on the same side of the belt, which is a pretty high-level basic layout. And then over time, on the right-hand side, we have a design that reflects the actual deployment and implementation plan with the robots across from each other on the belt, as well as exactly where we're going to place the safety cages and our AI computer box and our robot controller boxes that will be installed in the area. So these models are to the exact specs of what is on site at the MRFs, so that we can design a solution that's accurate and customized to each MRF and to each line and location. Next slide. Now, in order to relay all of these findings and our designs to the client, we compile everything into a proposal that we will virtually review with them. So we begin by talking about and aligning on their specific challenges and their goals, as well as what value and overall impact we believe EverestLabs can have in their facility. Then we'll highlight that total opportunity across the MRF and break down the possible solutions into phases. Phase one being their highest priority and what we believe would be the best place to start depending on their needs. Then we drill down and focus on the solutions in phase one and go into a lot of detail about those. We show the design models, we lay out the expected functions of the robotics. So, in this last chance line example, we detail, okay, robot one is going to be picking PET and HDP. It's going to be throwing it in this bin across and in this bin next to it. Robot 2 is going to be picking UBC and PET. It's going to be throwing it in the chute across or a container next to it. We get very, very specific about the exact functionalities, as well as any application for the AI and any expected data sets that they would like to see in addition to our out-of-the-box standard reports. It's also important that we discuss any assumptions or expectations of the processing here. When we're on site, we certainly capture a lot of information, but there may be gaps. And this proposal review is really more of a collaboration with the on-site team to craft the best solution together. And with any good proposal, our account executives will also include a detailed pricing breakdown for both our lease and purchase options, explaining what is included in our subscription, what you receive with our services, and a clear depiction of the return on investment and payback for that phase one solution plan. Next slide. All right, so what happens next? Well, if we do our job well, then that proposal is well received and our clients will sign on for the solution we've proposed. Fantastic. Our dedicated deployment and customer success team works continuously with the MRF to make sure that what we design together is implemented and operating as desired. So post contracts, the vision system will get installed on the line, as you can see here in the left-hand side image. Following a couple weeks of data capture with that camera and the fine tuning of our AI models, then the robots get put in and installed and are calibrated by our deployment and our robotics engineers. In addition to operating in production, the data from our RecycleOS AI and the data from the robotics is also available to our clients for use in tracking the robotic performance as well as overall material composition and allows the MRF to access insights into their plant operations. And all of this is kept running and chugging along by both the on-site MRF team as well as our remote operations center that provides 24/7 monitoring and auditing of both our robots and our AI models. Okay, so that concludes the content I have for y'all today. I've shown you what a free site survey entails, what content we get when we're on site with your team, and all the different possibilities that can come out of that visit. Honestly, performing site surveys and then designing solutions for your facility is my favorite part of my job. So if you're interested in a free site survey for your facility, let us know and I'd love to come out there. Thank you, everybody, for your time and your attention, and I'll pass it back over to McKenna to do some Q&A.
Sorry about that. I had a technical issue there. Awesome. Thanks so much, Katie. That was great, short and sweet. So now we will open it up to some Q&A. As a reminder, go ahead and place any questions you have in the Q&A chat at the bottom of your screen. So our first question we'll start with is, do you ever sell robots without doing a site survey?
Thanks, McKenna. Short answer there is probably not. The site survey is a really important step in our solutioning process so that we can provide an AI or a robotic solution that will actually provide value to our clients. And, we're not in the business of just slapping in a robot where it will physically fit. We want them to be successful. So, we can do a lot of solutioning virtually, but being on site and seeing the actual space, seeing the actual flow and the function of that MRF and that location is really important. So we definitely want to get out there.
Cool, that sounds great. Just waiting a little bit to see if another question. All right. So, Katie, during this webinar, we highlight a MRF map and show a bunch of different lines. This person wants to know what are the most common lines where EverestLabs robots are used by our customers?
So sorry, can you say that again?
Oh, yeah. This person wants to know what are the most common lines where EverestLabs robots are used by our customers?
Okay, yeah, great question. So most common, we are installed on a lot of quality control lines. So both containers and fiber lines, PETQC, UBCQC, HDP, fiber QC. Those are locations where our robots are doing what we would call a negative sort, and they're removing contamination off those lines. Some other very, very common placements for our robots are container lines, which are in MRFs where they are positively sorting out all types of containers. And then, as well, a very, very common installation is on last chance or residue lines. So, those robots are also positively recovering any high value containers that would otherwise be sent to landfill.
Awesome. And yeah, we actually, for anyone that's interested on our YouTube page, which this presentation will also be posted on, have a bunch of different videos of our robots doing positive and negative sorts. So if you want to look up EverestLabs YouTube, you can go ahead and check out some of those videos. So for our next question, do you do a site survey just for vision system install, or is this only for robot installations?
Yeah, absolutely for both. When I go on site, like I said, we start at the beginning of the plant flow, kind of the infeed, the tip floor, and then walk all the way through until the residue or the kind of final part of the plant. And I go in with an open mind in terms I'm looking for kind of all possible solutions that could be provided, whether that be vision system by itself for data and AI capture, or for robotic sorting as well. So definitely both are what we're looking for when we're on site.
Perfect. Sounds great. So for our next question, how long does it take to do a site survey?
Yeah. Like I said, it really only takes at most a couple of hours. We know that even though this is a free service, taking some time out of your busy days, especially for the MRF manager, the MRF supervisor, or ops manager, we really appreciate any time we can get. But yeah, expect, we say 2 hours max just to make sure in case it runs over a little, but maybe like a 20-minute chat at the beginning, and then the rest of the time we can be used to walk the floor, answer questions, and then even after we've walked the floor, we can chat a little bit more about what we saw and kind of what to expect with next steps.
Yeah, and for, just popping in for anything we do, whether it's the site surveys, if it's vision deployment, robotic deployment, maintenance, we try to come in on off times or weekends, during the night to try to make sure any downtime is mitigated and to make sure your operations stay running at peak performance. So that's definitely something we prioritize. Let's see, what else? Question is, how long has your robots been in deployment? I can take that. We, as a company, have been around since 2018, but then have started going commercial in 2021. So about four-ish years now. Next question. Do you ever do a site survey after a client's MRF has gone through a major upgrade to add more robots or maintenance?
Yeah, answer there is absolutely. One of the things that I definitely discuss whenever I'm on site with a team is if they have any upcoming, MRF retrofits or equipment replacements that are scheduled within, the next year, anything that would alter, the flow of the material or how they're processing things, we want to know that so that our solution can either, our solution kind of suggestions can either incorporate that change, or we can decide as a group, okay, maybe we'll come back out and revisit it after they've made those changes so that we can see kind of what the true material is in the flow and the expectation. But definitely, even in modern MRFs that are being built now with kind of those newer state-of-the-art equipment, there's still lots of applications for robotics, like I mentioned, on those quality control lines. So after, screens and after high-tech opticals, there's still a need for potential robotics to perform that automated quality control.
Perfect. Let's see. So next question we have, MRF flow rates and composition often vary over the course of days, weeks, and seasons. How do we account for variations from just one site survey?
Yeah, that's a great question. Whenever I'm there and we're looking at at a particular line and we're taking videos of the material flowing, I always make sure to ask, does this look like a typical burden or a typical flow that you see for this particular time of the year? Sometimes the material, MRFs will run lighter. Some, they might be running heavier if they're trying to, if they're a little behind on processing, but we definitely discuss, what the typical composition looks like and ask about those variations. Certain places have upticks, certain material compositions change based on the season. We want to know about those busy seasons and otherwise lulls. What's great about our AI and our robotics is the flexibility and configuration of it, in the sense that once a robot is installed or once an AI model is installed, it's not like it's in there and it's set and that's it forever. It's incredibly configurable in being able to determine, okay, what is the robot going after? Es- Especially what is it prioritizing? Maybe half of the year it's prioritizing PET on a container line, but then in the summer months when UVC really upticks, we can update the robot pick profile to go after, a higher volume commodity. So it's flexible with kind of the rate at which the industry can change and the way your material composition can change. So we would absolutely discuss that and want to evaluate that when we're on site so that we can plan for that as we implement our solutions.
Yeah, and what's, kind of going from a broader perspective, what's interesting about artificial intelligence, as Katie kind of mentioned, is that it's constantly learning and our database is constantly growing as we keep identifying more and more lines and MRFs across the country and also now in Australia. And right now we have 60 plus material classes, but that's always growing as well. So it's always getting smarter, it's always getting better, and that is always super helpful as, MRFs are all very different. Let's see. Next question is, what are you excited about that's on your roadmap?
Yeah, that's a good one. I would have to say, and maybe this helps answer another question about just vision systems specifically, but um, at EverestLabs, our AI is robust in that the data that it provides when placed at certain strategic locations in a MRF is almost like just as valuable, if not more valuable, than putting a robot in and performing a physical sort. Because depending on where you put it in a MRF, you can identify areas for improvement. You can gauge the performance of your equipment that this vision system is placed either before or after. And I think what I'm excited about is like kind of what McKenna was just mentioning is already having a really robust AI profile of like what material types we can characterize, but also as the industry, as EPR laws change kind of the different packaging types that we're seeing in the industry, I'm excited about the different applications of our just purely AI and data that we're, rolling out in North America and worldwide. I think it's really cool to see how quickly we can adjust with the way things are changing in the industry.
Yeah, and kind of, going off of the worldwide aspect you brought up there, we have a question that says municipal solid waste stream composition is quite variable in different regions. Do you have experience conducting site surveys on regions outside of North America or Europe? And we actually recently just announced our robotic deployment in Veolia's MRF in Perth, Australia. Veolia's MRF in Perth, Australia. And Katie, were you out there doing that site survey?
I was not.
Okay. Well, we
Yeah.
had someone out there, so yes, we've done site surveys in different regions outside of North America. Um, let's see. Next question. Does AI share any data across MRFs to improve robotics and vision systems?
Yes. So the metadata that is captured about a particular object on a line is anonymized and used to train our kind of core AI model. But all of that is, it's anonymized. It's not specific to the MRF that it's coming from. It's purely used to train our models on material types. Um, yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah, that is used to improve kind of like our base model and kind of the processing that we do.
Perfect. And next question, does your AI record any information such as weights?
Yeah, that is a good question. So we um weights for and materials for reporting. Yeah, we are able using our AI, our camera system, which is actually like a 3D RGB camera. We're able to identify the size and shape of particular materials. And using that, we can calculate kind of like an estimated volume. And then from that, provide sort of like a mass estimation. So for your most common material types like PET, UVC, I should say common as well as standard in kind of a lot of their sizing. So HDP, PET, UVC, those materials we can provide pretty accurate mass estimations, whether that be tonnage. And that's important because some of the analytics that we can provide will show, here's how many tons of particular material you're maybe sending to landfill. And that actually can translate into potential savings if you were to reduce that tonnage. That reduces the amount of landfill fees or tipping fees that you're spending.
Cool. Yeah, and just to add in here, we do have a webinar coming up at the end of the month, and that's with Recycling Today on their Today's Innovations webinar series, where we're going to dive a little bit more into mass balancing and our AI capabilities with that. So we'll be promoting that, posting it on our LinkedIn. And so keep an eye out if you guys are interested in learning more about that type of thing. I'll just give it a second to see if any other questions pop in. All right. Well, I think that's it for right now. If there are any other questions that came in or we didn't answer, I will make sure to send a direct email to you. And as a reminder, in the next couple days, I will be sending out the recording of this webinar as well as our presentation deck for you to take a look at and share with any of your colleagues. So thank you again for participating in this webinar. Thank you, Katie, for presenting, and um, we'll see you guys next time. Have a great
Thank
rest of your
you.
Tuesday. Thank you.